Well, it's almost July, so it's the perfect time for a mid-year review of our reading goals. I'm Adam David Collings, the author of Jewel of the Stars. So I set a goal this year of reading 30 books. Now this is a much smaller goal than I would usually set, but I knew this was going to be a Stormlight year. And by that I mean that last November, Brandon Sanderson released a new Stormlight Archive book, which means my wife gave it to me for Christmas, and I spent the first couple of months of this year reading it. I also wanted to focus more on quality over quantity. There were a bunch of books that I've been saying I wanted to read for ages but hadn't, and I wanted to tick some of those off this year. I didn't want to be feeling like I had to look for short books to read to make sure I met my goal. I wanted to give myself the space to take the time and read the things that I was planning to read. Now there's one other interesting thing about the way I've managed my reading this year, but first, let's have a look at my progress. So as you can see, I've read 17 books out of 30. I'm 3 books ahead, and I'm 57% of the way through my goal. So, I'm doing pretty good. You know, that was 4 books ahead yesterday, so I've just clicked back into 3. So this year, I've created a tag to pre-plan the books that I want to read this year. Now, I don't have to follow this completely by gospel. I have added some extra things into it, and will probably continue to do so. And it was never, an exhaustive, this is going to fill my year. It was a list of books that I wanted to make sure I got to. And I have put them in order. I found this really fun. As I'm reading a book, every now and then I'll go in and I'll think about, now, what do I read next? I think I'll read that one, and then I might read this one, and yeah, so I've really enjoyed doing that. So let's have a look. So you can see the first one that I wanted to make sure I got, obviously, was Wind and Truth, the Stormlight Archive book. I read Breaking Orbit by Michael D. Cooper, which is one of the Starman Saga books, which I'll talk about in a minute. Talman Prime, I've been getting into J.J. Green lately. She's an indie science fiction author that I'm really enjoying. Above the Circle of Earth by E. Stephen Burnett. Now, I've been following him with his Lorehaven and Speculative Faith websites over the years, so when he published his own science fiction book, well, I wanted to read that. Beasts in the Garden, that's another one that I discovered, and I don't think that was on the list originally, but I added that in. Now, Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I've been wanting to read this one for a while. It was recommended all over the internet. I've been trying to find it. I was looking in bookshops. I even looked on the library. I did finally find it in the library. I couldn't find it in any bookshop. It's a really popular science fiction book, but, I don't know about you, but I find when I go to bookshop, it's really hard to find specific books that you're looking for. Anyway, I was going to read it in the library, and then one day I found it in Hobart at a bookshop that we always visit when we go down there. So I was actually able to buy it. Pilgrims, that was a cool one. I actually ended up listening to that one on audio. And so I'm currently reading Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis, which is the first in the Space Trilogy book. So I've got a few others here. Revelation Space is another one of these kind of modern classic sci-fis that I always wanted to get to. Salt in the Seas is the latest from Corinne Norton. I've been following her. Some more Starman, and yeah, a few other things that I've kind of had on my list. There's a few that I got through Kickstarters. So, once I finish Out of the Silent Planet, the plan was to move on to Red Rising, and I just bumped that up to this position just recently. However, something interesting happened just yesterday. I got an email from my mate Winston. Now, he has been republishing the Starman Saga by Michael D. Cooper. He is getting ready to publish Book 10 in this series, which is a big kind of climax to a plot arc that's been building since Book 1. Now, apparently, when Book 10 was originally published years ago, the ending caused such a controversy, it divided the fan base. People either loved it or they hated it. And all these essays were written on the subject. Now, Winston is planning to publish some of these essays in Book 11, which is a novella. I think that's right. And he's invited me to participate and actually write something for that, which I think is a pretty cool opportunity. But I need to read books 8, 9, and 10 before September. So I'm going to be bumping those up in the priority. I had book 8 down here. But yeah, so I'm going to be bumping that up. I'm going to read that as soon as I finish Out of the Silent Planet, and then I'll probably go straight on to book 9. And I'll read book 10 when I'm able to get my hands on that. So yeah, that is, and like I said, plans change, and that's okay. I'm not making this something that I absolutely must follow to the letter, but it's something that I have enjoyed setting up and just thinking about what do I want to read next. That's been fun. I've been really enjoying reading this year, and hard to find time for it, but I've been really keen to jump in and do some reading when I can. So that's how my reading's going. What about you? How are you going against your reading goals? Have you been enjoying reading this year? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in another video. Live long and prosper.